The sterile scent of the hospital room was the smell of my decade-long marriage dying. Outside, the rain was a relentless curtain against the skyscraper window, mirroring the torrent that had finally broken loose inside me. I was holding his hand, the hand that had signed countless contracts, built an empire and occasionally briefly brushed mine. It was cold now, frail and pale against the crisp white sheets. My husband, Lee Jae-wook, the formidable CEO of Shinhwa Holdings, was fading. For 10 years Han Se-na had been his devoted wife. I endured the cold formality of our dinners, the respectful distance of our bedroom, and the endless whispers that called me the ice queen of the tech world. I believed I was the silent pillar, the true partner who held his world together. I believed the respect in his eyes would one day bloom into the passion I craved. The monitors were beeping a slow, steady rhythm, measuring the last moments of a life I had dedicated mine to. I leaned in, my voice cracking. "Jae-wook, I'm here. Don't worry. I'll take care of everything." His eyes, the deep, indifferent eyes I knew so well, flickered open. They didn't land on me. They stared past my shoulder, fixated on some invisible point of light only he could see. A weak, almost desperate smile lifted the corner of his mouth. It was a smile of pure, unadulterated relief, the kind a man reserves for his true redemption. He didn't acknowledge my presence, my 10 years of loyalty, or the hand clutching his. His voice was barely a whisper, a ragged breath carrying the secret he'd kept buried in the foundations of our marriage. "Jisoo." He sighed, the name escaping him like a prayer. He didn't say, "Thank you," to me. He didn't apologize for leaving me alone. He didn't even say, "Goodbye." Instead, he turned his head slowly, and for the first time his eyes met mine. They were not filled with love, not even pity, but a profound, aching sorrow for his own circumstance. "Se-na," he wheezed, clutching my hand tighter than he ever had before. "I'm sorry. I used you. I needed your family's firm to secure Jisoo's future. I promised her I'd protect her." A sharp, unbearable pain lanced through my chest, an emotional aneurysm that stole my breath. "Use me." The foundation of my world crumbled into dust. His eyes were glazing over, his confession rushing out as a final, desperate plea for a cosmic rewrite. The rain outside seemed to drum louder, announcing the climax of my tragedy. "You are strong, Se-na. You'll be fine. But Kim Jisoo, she is everything. She saved my life. I couldn't abandon her." He looked directly into my soul, not asking for my forgiveness but asking for a cosmic favor. His last breath was a desperate, guttural wish. Next life, let my savior be my wife." Then the beeping stopped. The rhythm of his life flatlined into a long, unbearable tone. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. The pain was too vast for tears. It was an electrical shock that threw my mind into a violent storm. The nurses rushed in, but their movements were slow motion. My vision blurred, the sterile white of the room dissolving into darkness. I felt myself falling through the floor, through the city, through time itself. But the darkness didn't last. It fractured and then it became blinding light. Instead of silence, I heard a familiar, annoying voice. My father shouting about a misplaced financial report. I gasped, sitting bolt upright. The air was heavy with the rich, warm scent of old leather and mahogany, not sterile disinfectant. I was in my father's private study at Se-na Tech headquarters. The window showed a bright, bustling Seoul skyline, not the gray drizzle of the present. I looked down at my hands. They were younger, unblemished, and they weren't wearing the heavy, symbolic diamond Jae-wook had used to seal our corporate pact. I ran to the antique wall calendar. October 2015. The date that flashed back was 5 years before our wedding, 10 years before his death. The day I had finally convinced my hesitant father to let me lead the initial negotiations with Shinhwa Holdings. The day I first met Lee Jae-wook, still charming, still a predator, still full of promises he never meant to keep. I hadn't died. I had been sent back. The full, devastating script of the life I had just lived. The public humiliation, the secret money transfers, Jisoo's calculated act. The clause Jae-wook used to steal my company, was all packed inside my mind. I knew his every move, his every ambition, his every hidden agenda. A cold, terrifying resolve settled deep in my core. My devotion was gone, replaced by a surgical, emotionless fury. You want to honor your savior, Jae-wook? You want to use my life as a means to her end? I will not stop the marriage. I will marry you. I will build you up. And then, at the moment of your greatest triumph, when you finally take Jisoo's hand, I will divorce you and use the very kingdom we built together to utterly dismantle your pride, your legacy, and the woman you love. I stood up, adjusting the lapel of my business jacket. This wasn't a second chance at love. It was a first chance at perfect retribution. Tell me where you're watching from and what the weather's like today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. It really helps this channel grow and keeps the stories coming. The negotiations began the next day. In my past life, I had been naive, eager to please Jae-wook, blinded by the fantasy that a successful merger would lead to a genuine love story. I rushed the process, giving him too many concessions and too much control over Sae-na-tek's future. This time my approach was clinical. The atmosphere of the boardroom was luxurious. Polished marble and floor-to-ceiling glass overlooking the financial district. Jae-wook was exactly as I remembered. Handsome, intimidating, and radiating the cold charisma of a man who always won. "Ms. Han," he said, offering a practiced, charming smile that used to make my stomach flutter. "I am confident this merger will cement Shinwa's position as the market leader. Your technology and our infrastructure, a perfect match." I returned his smile with a professional, cool expression. "Indeed, Mr. Lee. And I am eager to discuss the specific terms that ensure Sae-na-tek's autonomy after the merger. My father's legacy is non-negotiable." I proceeded to execute the first critical maneuver of my long game. Over the next 6 hours, I systematically dismantled every loophole he planned to exploit years down the line. The spousal agreement. He required a spousal agreement that would transfer a critical 35% of my family's trust shares to Shinwa upon marriage and eventual divorce. My counter. The transfer will be 5% upon marriage and 5% annually for 6 years. If the marriage dissolves before the 6-year mark, the annual transfer is immediately voided, and all remaining shares stay within the Han family trust. This protects my family, Mr. Lee, and shows the market our commitment is long-term, not predatory. This ensured he couldn't divorce me early without losing the bulk of the corporate prize. The CEO role. In the past, I stepped down as CEO of Sae-na-tek 3 years into the marriage, giving him total control. My counter. I will retain the title and executive authority as CEO of the Sae-na-tek division for the first 7 years of the merger. It demonstrates consistency to the market. I needed the time and the authority to secure and insulate the company. The debt. He had planned to use Shinwa funds to quietly settle Jisoo's family debts and medical costs, funneled through a discretionary corporate philanthropy account. My counter. I require a complete audit of all executive discretionary accounts, quarterly, starting immediately, to ensure corporate funds are strictly separated from personal assets during the merger period. Transparency, Mr. Lee, is key to our united future. This forced him to either stop paying Jisoo or use his personal funds, making the debt entirely traceable when the time for divorce came. Jae-wook was visibly annoyed. He hadn't expected this level of scrutiny from the naive young heiress. But the prize, the full control of Sae-na-tek's cutting-edge AI portfolio, was too tempting to risk losing over semantics. He swallowed his pride. "Ms. Han, you are a remarkably astute negotiator," he said, his smile tightening. "We agreed to your terms." His agreement was my engagement ring. The contract was signed. The merger was set to be finalized upon our marriage 1 year later. As he rose to shake my hand, I saw the arrogance in his eyes. He thought he could still control the outcome. He thought he could simply wait out the 6 years, grant me the divorce and walk away with the lion's share. He didn't know that my clock was set not to his gain but to his ruin. That evening I did something I hadn't done the first time around. I hired a private investigator. Not to spy on Jae-wook. I knew his movements intimately, but to document Kim Jisoo. In my past life I was blindsided by the accident report that cemented her status as his savior. This time I needed the truth now before the marriage so I could use the evidence when the betrayal was exposed years later. My foresight gave me the name of the security guard and the clinic. The investigator's mission was simple. Gather all original reports, witness statements, and financial transactions related to the 2015 incident and keep them locked away in a secure vault under my lawyer's name. The truth had to be preserved, pristine and untouched, ready to be weaponized years from now. I stood by the window watching the city lights flicker to life. The younger Han Se-na had wept for the man she loved. The reborn Han Se-na only felt a quiet, powerful satisfaction. Marry me, Jae-wook. Build your empire with my help. Because when I finally leave you, the structure will be so dependent on my support that the slightest tremor will bring the whole thing crashing down onto your new bride. The year leading up to the marriage was a masterclass in calculated performance. I played the role of the devoted, brilliant fiancé perfectly. I attended every corporate function by Jae-wook's side, radiating confidence and quiet affection. I learned to look at him without emotion, seeing him not as my future husband, but as a temporary, crucial business partner. He, in turn, softened his usual ice-cold demeanor, mistaking my careful scrutiny for adoring patience. My foresight was my greatest, darkest asset. I knew the exact moments he slipped away to visit Jisoo, who was still playing the delicate, sickly object of his duty. I knew the excuses he would use, the sudden late-night meetings, or the unforeseen trips to regional branches. I never questioned him. I would simply smile, offer him a warm tea and wish him a successful night. My lack of jealousy or suspicion only solidified his belief that I was the ideal wife. Strong, independent, and utterly unchallenging. But while he was gone, I was working. My time was spent meticulously untangling Se-na tech from any Shinwa dependencies that could be leveraged after the divorce. My focus turned to the development of our flagship project, the Lotus AI chipset. In the original timeline, Jae-wook had pressured me to rush the Lotus launch under the Shinwa name, allowing him to claim the innovation as his own when the divorce hit. This time I slowed down the public launch. I created a separate, privately held subsidiary under my father's name, called EOS Labs, legally shielded from the Shinwa merger. All the critical intellectual property, the core algorithms, and the most promising future patents for Lotus were quietly registered under EOS Labs, not Se-na Tech. When Jae-wook reviewed the quarterly merger reports, he saw that Se-na Tech was financially stable and successfully managing its current products, just as planned. He saw the steady annual transfer of the 5% shares. He assumed the slow pace on the new AI was simply market caution. He had no idea that the true jewel of Se-na Tech, the future of the entire company, was hidden away, a completely independent anchor waiting for the day I cut the rope. One late evening, Jae-wook returned from a meeting. I knew he'd been at Jisoo's side, comforting her over some fabricated illness. He found me in the living room surrounded by diagrams and legal documents. "Working late, Se-na?" he asked, his voice carrying the faint scent of foreign perfume. "Always," I replied, not looking up. "Just finalizing the new patent applications for Lotus. Standard procedure, sealing off the core tech before the official marriage next month. We can't have any leaks, can we?" "No, of course not," he agreed readily, entirely missing the irony. He walked over and gently placed his hands on my shoulders, a gesture he often used to feign intimacy. The contact felt like static electricity, unpleasant and meaningless. "You worry too much, Se-na. Once we are married, all this will be secured. You're my partner. I want you to trust me." I leaned back slightly, feigning fatigue, and gave him the perfect answer, the answer that locked him into the future I had prepared. "I do trust you, Jae-wook," I sighed, looking him directly in the eye. "That is why I agreed to your terms even when my father cautioned me. I trust that you, as the future head of our combined empires, would never allow an external, private matter to compromise our corporate integrity." I was referring to Jisoo. He heard the word, integrity, and assumed I meant the market. He tightened his grip, satisfied. "I would never say. I protect what is mine." "Good," I thought, my mind glacial. "I'm counting on you protecting what is yours, including Jisoo, because when her deception is revealed, the public will tie your integrity to her fraud." The wedding day arrived. It was a spectacular affair, televised and photographed for all of Asia's society pages. I wore the dress he chose, exchanged the vows he dictated, and played the part of the radiant, dedicated bride. I looked into the mirror and saw the woman I was supposed to be, happy, in love, victorious. But the woman behind the eyes was a ghost, waiting for the curtain call. The first year of our marriage was a careful dance. I observed his schedule, noted his frequent absences, and logged every payment he made from his personal, undisclosed accounts to Jisoo. He had stopped using the corporate discretionary fund due to my insistence on transparency, thinking his private funds were safe. He didn't realize that in South Korea, Every marital asset and debt, even those hidden, becomes subject to legal discovery during a high-stakes divorce. I ensured his personal documented debt to Jisoo was quietly accumulating, building a heavy, undeniable chain between them. By the end of the second year, I had completely restructured Sena Tech under the umbrella of the protected EOS Labs patents. My company was a fortified castle ready for siege. The only thing left was to wait for the perfect karmic moment for my exit. My foresight told me the exact timing. It wasn't about the 6-year share requirement. It was about his peak. Jae-wook's ambition would reach its apex in the 5th year of our marriage, when he would successfully win the highly competitive bid for the massive government infrastructure project, Project Phoenix. Securing Phoenix would cement Shinhwa Holdings as the indisputable market leader and elevate Jae-wook to a national icon, the moment of his greatest pride. And that would be my signal. As we entered the 3rd year, I made another strategic move. I initiated a seemingly innocent business relationship with a mid-tier medical firm, Marries Health. I remembered from the original timeline that Marries Health was the company Jisoo would work for after the divorce, securing her a quiet, comfortable position funded by Jae-wook. I, however, used my CEO authority to secure an exclusive 5-year technology development partnership with Marries Health, effectively absorbing their corporate structure into the Sena Tech division. I told Jae-wook the partnership was crucial for developing medical AI applications. He was bored by medical tech and waved it off. Little did he know I hadn't absorbed Marries Health for its technology. I had absorbed it to control every future opportunity for Kim Jisoo. The very company he planned to use to quietly reward his mistress would soon be directly controlled by his wife. I found myself smiling sometimes, a chilling, private amusement. Jae-wook thought he was a chess master moving pieces across the corporate board. He didn't realize I was moving the entire board into a locked room, where only I knew the final key. I poured 2 glasses of the expensive scotch he preferred and carried them into the study where he was working. He looked up, surprised by the unsolicited warmth. "To success, Jae-wook," I said, handing him the glass. "May the coming years bring us every victory we are working for." He clinked his glass against mine, his eyes gleaming with ambition and pride. "To us, Sena. And to the day we finally claim the Phoenix Project." He drank deeply. He had no idea he was toasting his own impending execution. The 5th year of our marriage arrived, a quiet, calculated milestone. On the surface, our life was a portrait of corporate power and domestic tranquility. Below the veneer, Jae-wook was intensely focused on Project Phoenix, the massive government infrastructure contract that would solidify Shinhwa's dominance. I was focused on something else, the approaching anniversary of his true love's life-saving act, the 10-year mark that Jisoo had, according to my foresight, always considered the expiration date of my marriage. It was a cold, bright November morning when the news broke. Shinhwa Holdings secures Project Phoenix. Jae-wook was euphoric. He strode into our penthouse, not cold or controlled, but genuinely excited, sweeping me into a rare, firm embrace. "We did it, Sena. Shinhwa is untouchable now. The market is ours," he exclaimed, his eyes shining with pure ambition. I allowed myself a small, sincere smile, not of affection for him but of satisfaction with my timing. His corporate position was now at its absolute peak. The higher the climb, the more devastating the fall. "I always knew you would secure it, Jae-wook," I said, stepping back smoothly. "It's a victory for Shinhwa and by extension for Sena Tech. We should celebrate." "We will," he promised, already reaching for his phone. "But first, I need to make a few calls to finalize the celebration." I knew exactly who the first call was for. Kim Jisoo. He wasn't celebrating the Phoenix victory with me. He was celebrating the fact that his corporate debt was finally paid, meaning he was now free to pursue his sacred personal debt. That night, as Jae-wook slept the satisfied sleep of a triumphant emperor, I retrieved the file I had kept locked in a private deposit box for the last 5 years. It contained the meticulously documented evidence of Jisoo's fraud, the personal account records of his monthly payments to her, and the revised divorce petition. The time for waiting was over. I had secured my company, documented his betrayal, and waited for his moment of highest pride. Now I would grant him the divorce he craved, but on my terms. The following morning I waited for him in the dining room. He was dressed impeccably, ready to face the adoring press. The air was charged with his success. As he reached for his coffee, I slid the signed documents across the polished table. It wasn't the divorce petition first. It was a one-page letter, stark and uncompromising. He frowned, picking it up. His jaw tightened as he read the first line. I have full knowledge of your ongoing financial relationship and emotional attachment to Kim Ji-soo. He dropped the paper as if it were burning him, his face going instantly pale. The arrogance evaporated, replaced by cold terror. Sena, what is this? This is absurd. Where did you get this information? It doesn't matter where I got it, Jae-wook, I replied calmly, sipping my tea. What matters is the truth. I know about the engineered accident, the paid-off doctor and the security guard. I know every wire transfer you've made to her family over the last decade, including the payments you made from your personal undisclosed accounts during our marriage. I have proof of everything, sealed and notarized under my attorney's protection. He looked at me, truly saw me for the first time in 5 years. The shock and betrayal in his eyes were immense, not because I knew, but because he realized I had been calculating this, coolly and patiently, while playing the role of his wife. What do you want, Sena? Money? A bigger settlement? I will double whatever you ask, he finally ground out, already reaching for his phone to call his lawyer. I want 2 things, Jae-wook, I said, ignoring his offer. And they are non-negotiable. I pushed the second document across the table, the divorce petition. First, I grant you this divorce immediately. No corporate delay, no scandal, no public fight. You are free to marry Kim Ji-soo whenever you wish. You get the wife you desperately crave. But in return, the legal agreement must state that I, Han Sena, am leaving you for personal reasons, and I waive all financial compensation from Shinhwa Holdings. He paused, utterly bewildered. You want a clean break? No money. I want my dignity, I corrected him. And I want to ensure the market perceives this as a swift, clean separation, not a corporate bloodbath. You get your freedom and the appearance of corporate stability. That is my price for silence on the matter of the fraud. He scrutinized the document, looking for the trap. He couldn't find one. Seemed too good to be true. He was getting out clean and keeping his fortune. What is the second demand? He asked, suspicious. I smiled, a thin, chilling expression that held no warmth. The second demand is purely personal, Jae-wook, but absolutely critical to my agreement to silence. In the public statement announcing our divorce, I require you to include one specific line. It must be attributed directly to you. I slid the final paper over, a small, typed note. He read the line, and the color drained from his face entirely, the successful glow of Project Phoenix extinguished. The line read, Han Sena is the most brilliant and loyal partner I have ever known. While our marriage ends today, her corporate integrity and brilliance are the foundation upon which Shinhwa will build its future. This is ridiculous, he spat, crushing the paper in his hand. Why would I say that? You're leaving me. This makes me look like I failed you. Precisely, I confirmed. You are desperate to marry Jisoo and keep my documented proof of your fraud secret. You are at the pinnacle of your career. You need a fast, quiet exit more than you need your ego. If you refuse to praise my corporate integrity, I will use the documents I hold to prove your lack of integrity, and I will tie your precious Phoenix project to a decade-long scandal involving financial deception and personal corruption. I rose from the table, my shadow falling over his horrified face. You wanted to marry your savior, Jae-wook. I am granting you that wish. But first you must publicly certify the integrity of the woman you betrayed, thereby setting the bar for your new bride impossibly high. Sign the papers. Announce the divorce today. And don't forget the line. He looked at the divorce petition, then at the crumpled compliment, and then finally at the invisible threat of my attorney's vault. He chose his ambition over his pride. Jae-wook signed the divorce papers that day. Within hours, Shinhwa released the statement. The market buzzed not with scandal, but with surprise at the abrupt, quiet separation, punctuated by the CEO's bizarre, heartfelt praise for his ex-wife's brilliance. My revenge had begun. I was free, and Jae-wook was now racing toward the altar, dragging the entire, perfectly clean, high-integrity Shinhwa empire with him to marry a fraud I had perfectly documented years ago. The divorce was finalized on a Thursday. By Saturday, Lee Jae-wook and Kim Ji-soo had announced their engagement, complete with a lavish photoshoot designed to look like a fairy tale ending after years of tragic separation. They were rushing the wedding, scheduling it for the following month. They were drunk on their perceived victory. I had moved out of the penthouse and returned to the quiet, dignified residence I owned before the marriage. A gesture that, coupled with Jae-wook's public praise of my integrity, cemented my image as the noble, unfairly treated ex-wife. The market stabilization I promised Jae-wook was short-lived. His praise created an expectation. The moment Shinhwa announced his engagement, the investors who had relied on my brilliance to steer Sena Tech began to get nervous. My name had become synonymous with stability. Jisoo's name was synonymous with a decade-old sensationalist accident. This was my second major move: leverage the market's trust in me. I held a private, small press conference under the banner of the newly independent Sena Tech. I didn't mention Jae-wook or Jisoo. I spoke only of the future. 5 years ago, I announced, standing beneath the EOS Labs logo, the name he barely remembered, I began the long process of insulating the cutting edge of Sena Tech. Today I am proud to announce the immediate, exclusive launch of the Lotus AI chipset under our fully protected subsidiary EOS Labs. This technology has been meticulously shielded from external corporate influence and represents the true, uncompromised future of medical and infrastructural technology. The market reacted immediately. The stock of the Shinhwa division that had expected to house Lotus plunged. The stock of Sena Tech and its subsidiary EOS Labs skyrocketed. Jae-wook had won Project Phoenix, but the innovative technology he promised to use for it was now firmly under my control. He had the contract, but the best tool for the job was now held by his ex-wife. The business papers called it the Great Corporate Divorce. They speculated wildly about how Jae-wook, the ambitious CEO, had somehow let the true technology gem slip through his fingers. Jae-wook called me that evening, his voice tight with controlled fury. "You knew, Sena," he bit out. "You knew the potential of EOS Labs and the Lotus chip, and you hid it. You used those 5 years not to be my partner but to undermine me." "Undermine you?" I echoed, genuinely surprised by his naivete. "Jae-wook, you married me for my company's assets. I married you to protect my company from your asset stripping. When you signed the divorce papers, you agreed to our clean, separate futures. Sena Tech is my future built on the assets I protected. Did you truly expect me to hand over the most valuable technology to the man who praised my integrity one day and then ran off to marry his mistress the next?" He hung up, the sound of the line snapping dead, a satisfying click. He couldn't fight me legally. The corporate separation was clean and ratified by his own signature. He could only watch as the financial rewards of his triumph were curtailed. The next phase of my plan focused on Jisoo. The wedding was just 2 weeks away, and the couple was facing their first major logistical hurdle. Jisoo needed a job. In my original life, Jae-wook secured Jisoo a quiet, high-paying position at Marries Health, a mid-tier medical firm, shortly after the divorce. It was a comfortable safety net, away from the corporate politics of Shinhwa. I smiled, remembering my strategic 5-year partnership agreement with Marries Health. I called the CEO of Marries Health, Dr. Kong, directly. I was no longer just the former wife of Lee Jae-wook. I was the CEO of EOS Labs, holder of the Lotus AI, and the provider of their exclusive multi-million-dollar technology license. "Dr. Kong," I said, my voice warm and professional. "I'm calling about the personnel file for a candidate named Kim Jisoo." Dr. Kong cleared her throat nervously. "Ah, yes, Ms. Han. She is a highly recommended candidate for an administrative position. Mr. Lee himself put in a very strong word for her." "I am aware of Mr. Lee's interest," I replied smoothly. "And I understand he is offering Marries Health a significant corporate donation if she is hired." "That is accurate, Ms. Han." "Dr. Kong," I continued, letting a slight steel enter my voice, "Marries Health is an exclusive partner of EOS Labs. Our 5-year partnership agreement includes a morals clause regarding executive personnel. We cannot risk the reputation of the Lotus AI by having it associated with potential corporate-adjacent scandals." I paused, letting the implication sink in. Kim Jisoo is about to become the subject of a massive public scandal, one I have the full documentation to back up. She engineered the accident that nearly killed the CEO of Shinhwa. Her employment at your firm, funded by a veiled bribe from Mr. Lee, will taint Marries Health and, by extension, jeopardize our entire partnership. I didn't threaten. I presented a strategic risk assessment. "The choice is simple, Dr. Kong. You can accept a single donation from Mr. Lee and hire a scandal-ridden candidate, thereby losing the long-term exclusive rights to the most powerful medical AI on the market. Or you can decline Ms. Kim's application and secure the future of Myri Health with a permanent, expanded partnership with EOS Labs. The decision was swift. Dr. Kong profusely apologized for wasting my time and assured me that Kim Jisoo's application would be respectfully declined. When Jisoo called Jae-wook in hysterics, demanding to know why her last remaining safety net had disappeared, he could only offer lame excuses about market timing and unforeseen budget cuts. He had no idea his ex-wife was now the hidden hostile owner of his mistress's career future. Jisoo, furious at the rejection, publicly accused the firm of corporate sexism. This outburst was exactly what I needed. Her emotional reaction made her look volatile and demanding, not frail and angelic. Jae-wook's attempt to secure a quiet, dignified life for his savior was systematically collapsing. He was trapped between the high expectations he set for me and the volatile reality of the woman he was about to marry. The wedding, once a symbol of his ultimate success, was becoming a ticking time bomb. I pulled out the sealed vault files. The private investigator's decade-old documentation was still pristine. The timing was perfect. I drafted a short, anonymous package containing only 3 items: the notarized statement of the security guard who witnessed Jisoo's fraud, the personal account wire transfer records from Jae-wook to her, and the high-quality photo of Jisoo's initial, crude attempt to cause the accident. I addressed the package to the same tenacious journalist who had broken the story of our divorce, Ms. Kong. It was time to give the new couple their wedding present. The atmosphere of the wedding day was heavy, not with romance, but with an unnatural, forced exuberance. Jae-wook was clearly under immense corporate pressure, scrambling to find alternative tech partners for Project Phoenix after the Lotus AI bombshell. Jisoo, however, was radiant, convinced that the marriage itself was her ultimate, undeniable victory. The wedding was held at a prestigious, ancient temple converted into an exclusive event hall, blending modern opulence with historical grandeur. The guests were the cream of the corporate world, all exchanging nervous whispers about the strange, swift divorce and the sudden market fluctuations caused by the EOS Labs launch. I was not present, but my presence was everywhere. I was at my home watching the live stream of the wedding, which was being broadcast on the Society channel, the perfect stage for my final act. Next to me sat my attorney, Mr. Han, a trusted family friend, ready for the final move. The ceremony proceeded. Jae-wook, pale and tense, exchanged vows with a tearful, triumphant Jisoo. The moment they were pronounced husband and wife, my attorney gave a curt nod. "It's done, Ms. Han. The marital status is official." "Execute the plan, Mr. Han," I ordered, my eyes glued to the image of the now-married couple, who were kissing to polite applause. My plan wasn't about legal damage anymore. It was about public humiliation and karmic collapse. The clock had been ticking since I sent the package to Ms. Kong. Just as the couple turned to descend the aisle, ready for their grand reception, the live broadcast cut suddenly. The temple's serene, beautiful image was replaced by the familiar logo of the Society News channel. A breaking news banner flashed across the screen. "Breaking. Seo Lee's savior, bride identified as fraud in decadal scandal." The journalist, Ms. Kong, appeared on screen, her voice grave and serious. She didn't announce the news, she presented the evidence. "This network has exclusively obtained irrefutable evidence proving that the accident which nearly claimed the life of Shinwoo Lee Jae-wook 10 years ago was not a heroic rescue, but an act of calculated manipulation by his new wife, Kim Jisoo." The broadcast then showed the notarized sworn testimony of the security guard, followed by the actual dated photo of Jisoo's vehicle positioned suspiciously near Jae-wook's car just moments before the crash. The final, damning piece of evidence was a clear image of the wire transfers from Jae-wook's private accounts to the compromised medical clinic, confirming the decade-long payoff. Ms. Kong concluded with a devastating summary. "Mr. Lee didn't marry his savior. He married a woman who blackmailed him into a life debt and financially exploited him for 10 years. The marriage that began today is founded entirely on fraud." The effect inside the temple was instantaneous and catastrophic. The applause died in a strangled silence. Waiters froze. Guests reached for their phones, their eyes wide with shock. confirming the story that was erupting across every news aggregator in the country. Jae-wook, still standing on the dais, didn't move. He stared blankly at the screen that was now being projected onto a large media wall in the reception area, a cruel irony of his own making. Kim Ji-soo, however, let out a piercing shriek of pure, panicked denial. No. It's a lie. It's Sana's doing. She's lying. She turned to Jae-wook, grabbing the lapels of his tuxedo, her beautiful wedding dress now looking like a shroud. Jae-wook, tell them. Tell them you love me. Tell them the money was a gift. You promised me everything. Jae-wook finally moved. He didn't embrace her. He didn't defend her. He simply pulled away, his face etched not with love or pity, but with dawning absolute horror. He saw the truth in her desperation. He saw his ambition, the Project Phoenix, now irreversibly tainted by his choice of wife. His entire corporate stability, which relied on the appearance of integrity, was crumbling. He had praised his ex-wife's integrity on a public forum, confirming her trustworthiness. He had married his current wife on live television, chaining his reputation to a criminal fraudster. Ji-soo collapsed onto the marble floor, screaming. The corporate guests began a frantic exodus, their faces masks of disgust and calculated distance. No one wanted to be associated with the collapse of the savior CEO. I leaned back on my sofa watching the chaotic scene unfold. The sight of Jae-wook standing utterly alone amidst the ruined reception, his ambition and pride in ashes, was the perfect resolution. He was alive, he was married to his savior, and he had realized, too late, that he had chosen a fraud over a genuine partner, and that partner had orchestrated his public ruin. The phone rang. It was Jae-wook's private number. My attorney offered to answer, but I shook my head, picking it up. Sana. Jae-wook's voice was unrecognizable, raw, strangled, defeated. You were the partner. Not her. You were the only one who didn't lie. You only realized that when the lie threatened your Project Phoenix, Jae-wook. I said, my voice quiet, completely emotionless. You made your choice 10 years ago when you decided to use me as a stepping stone. You wanted to marry your savior. Today you did. Now you live with the consequences of her crimes and your deceit. What can I do? He pleaded, desperation clear even over the line. How can I fix this? Shinhwa is collapsing. You can't fix it, I said, my final statement to the man I once loved. You wanted a debt paid. Today I collected it. The payment is your reputation, your company's stability, and your marriage to the truth. I hung up, silencing his ruined pleas. The screen showed police and security guards flooding the beautiful temple. Kim Ji-soo was being escorted away, her wedding dress dragging uselessly behind her. Jae-wook stood motionless, the groom of a ruined kingdom. Karmic justice, delivered on the altar of his arrogance. The fallout from the wedding was immediate and devastating. The news of the fraud, combined with the earlier shock of losing the Lotus AI technology, sent Shinhwa Holdings stock into a freefall. The government, wary of corruption, immediately suspended the Project Phoenix contract pending a full internal audit. Jae-wook was not immediately arrested, but he was publicly disgraced. He was forced to step down as CEO of Shinhwa to deal with the inevitable legal discovery and investor lawsuits. The ambitious empire he had built on a foundation of lies crumbled in a single day. As for the new Mrs. Lee, Kim Ji-soo, she faced multiple charges of fraud and corporate manipulation. The security guard's testimony was airtight. Her victory, in marrying Jae-wook, had only ensured that her arrest was public, humiliating, and inextricably linked to one of the most powerful men in the country. Her ultimate prize became her immediate prison. I spent the next 2 months rebuilding. The market reaction to EOS Labs was overwhelmingly positive. The board of Sana Tech fully endorsed my leadership, now seeing me as the brilliant corporate mind who protected their legacy from a corrupt takeover. I moved the headquarters of EOS Labs into the highest floor of the building where Jae-wook had once proposed to me, symbolizing the new ascent built upon the ruins of the past. My life was no longer ruled by the clock of revenge, but by the rhythm of creation. I worked long hours, dedicated to the ethical, ambitious future of my company, but the exhaustion was different now. It was productive, not draining. One evening, my assistant handed me a plain, sealed envelope. It had been delivered to the office. The handwriting was Jae-wook's. I hesitated, but curiosity and finality won. I opened it. The letter was short, written on simple stationery. There were no pleas for money, no threats. Sena, I saw the report about EOS Labs. The Lotus chip is brilliant. You were right about its potential and you were right about me. I chased ambition and debt thinking they were the same thing. I mistook calculation for loyalty. I lost everything, including the lie I thought was love. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I only recognize your strength. You didn't just survive me. You built a better future on the ruins of my mistake. You are the only person who lived up to the integrity I falsely assigned to you. Goodbye, Sena. I folded the letter neatly and tossed it into the recycling bin. There was no surge of triumph, only a quiet, final sense of equilibrium. His apology didn't absolve his actions, but his recognition confirmed my victory. I hadn't destroyed him for passion, I had done it for justice. My life was no longer defined by a man's betrayal. I was free of the ghost of his final wish and the pain of my first life. I had reclaimed my name, my fortune, and my future. The cityscape outside my window was bright, no longer mirroring grief, but the sharp, clear light of an unburdened dawn. My happy ending wasn't a righteous lead waiting in the wings. It was the woman staring back at me in the glass, the unburdened, brilliant show of her own destiny. 6 months passed. Kim Jisoo was convicted of fraud and sentenced to years in prison. Jae-wook, stripped of his Shinhwa shares and facing massive legal fees, retreated completely from public life. Their grand wedding was remembered only as the prelude to the greatest corporate and social collapse of the decade. I was at a quiet industry gala, celebrating EOS Labs' first major international contract. I was wearing a simple, tailored silver dress, radiating confidence. I spoke easily with other CEOs, no longer hiding my brilliance or softening my ambition. A kind, earnest doctor I had met through my partnership with Myri Health, a man who had stood by me professionally throughout the chaos, approached me. Dr. Lee was genuine, respected, and utterly unconnected to the world of corporate lies. Ms. Han, congratulations on the contract, he said, his smile gentle. You truly built something extraordinary from the ground up. I simply reclaimed what was mine, doctor, I replied, meeting his gaze without the need for pretense. He didn't talk about business. He talked about the quiet beauty of the snow falling outside and the ethical challenges of medical AI. He saw me, Hansei, not the ex-wife, not the brilliant rival, but a woman with genuine depth. I realized I wasn't closed off to a future. I was simply selective. I didn't need a hero. I needed an equal, or perhaps nothing at all. As I left the gala, the first snowflakes of the winter began to fall, gentle, silent, and clean. They weren't the harsh, judgmental snow of loneliness I had felt in my first life, but the quiet, beautiful start of a new season. I was finally free of debt, free of resentment, and entirely in control of my fate. The man who had begged for his savior to be his wife in the next life had received his wish in this one, and it had destroyed him. My future was bright, secure, and entirely mine. I didn't need a second chance at love. I only needed a second chance at me. Tell me which moment shocked you the most, broken heart, or touched your heart the deepest. Your comments mean the world to me. They help me keep creating more stories like this. Please like, subscribe, and share. Your support keeps Lotus Tale Studios alive. See you in the next story, Red Heart.